introductions so that we can know who is in the house. I can see one of the discussants, Ms. Catherine Muma, has joined in. Catherine, good morning.
Morning.
Perfect. Karibu sana to the meeting today. I can see you can hear us loud and clear. Marcus, good morning.
Good morning, Maureen.
Thank you. Duncan?
Yes, I can hear you, Maureen.
Thank you so much and welcome to today's meeting. Today's meeting is just all about organizing, to discuss about the organization of and the conduct of elections in Kenya, and especially to just have a look at the overall, the general electoral environment, even as we approach the 2022 general elections, and as a way of building confidence and trust in the electoral processes in Kenya, not only within political parties and the election management bodies, but with the overall citizens in general. So today's meeting, we just have a quick round of panel discussions on specific questions. On board, we have Dr. Catherine Muma from the chairperson, the National Elections Board, ODM. We also have as our senior, the senior program officer, Mr. Marcus Agenga from ILOG. Our moderator for today is going to be Duncan Haemba, the senior political reporter from KTN, who's here with us. And we also have online Ms. Brenda Ondieki from PPDT, who's going to help us to know what the dispute resolution mechanisms are in Kenya and what in general the political parties, the political parties disputes tribunals do, and to also help us to ensure that within our Sorry for that. I can see the host muted me. So general look at what is going on in Kenya and what is within the political parties that is going to help us even as we move towards the 2022 general elections to ensure that we have, on board mechanisms that are going to ensure that we have a peaceful and violence-free elections. So without so much further ado, I'm just going to state that on board we have political parties represented from KANU. We also have representatives from LPK. We have representatives from WIPA. We also have representatives from PPDT, and we also have PDU and ODM. We also have on board Mr. Joseph Kanja from the ORPP on board. And as said earlier, we also be having representatives from IBC. I hope they'll be able to join in. So without so much further ado, I don't know if Frank, you can hear me.
Maureen, I can hear you, but please proceed. I'm not in a position to be able to speak right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Frank. We have on board our Executive Director, Mr. Franklin Mukwanja, and our the Senior Program Manager, Mr. Range Meter. So without so much further ado, I'll just kindly ask that we mute our mics when we're not speaking, and let me just now go into the program and give it to Duncan Haemba to just take it over from here. Duncan, if you can hear me.
Thank you, Maureen, and we'll try and stick to the program and see how far we'll sail. We are taking off. I can see it's a very rich 3-day program, engaging. So basically, we are setting off from the shore, getting deep into this ocean, the political ocean. So we hope that there will be no tides. We have a smooth sail at least for day one and see how far we'll be able to go. Now, from the program that we have today, members, we have two discussants. That's the Dr. Catherine Muma, then NEB at ODM chairperson, and Marcus. I see you're saying Aganga, it's Agenga if I'm not wrong. So I think for starters, maybe for a brief introduction, and then we see how much we will tackle in terms of what has been listed on the program. Dr. Muma, I think ladies, Maureen has started off. I think ladies will always have their way. So ladies go first. Dr. Muma, just a brief introduction and markers, and then we proceed from there. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Catherine Muma. I'm not a doctor. Everybody insists on calling me a doctor. Please, I am not a doctor, not a medical one, not a PhD one. I'm just Catherine Muma. I'm the chairperson of the National Elections Boards for ODM. I guess that's it. Is that all?
Fair enough, Marcus, and yes, Dr. Sorry, Miss Muma, you know, you've said everybody insists on calling you. We don't know where that title came from. We've just been calling you Dr. Catherine Muma, even at your party headquarters. So you'll forgive us because that is how, you know, we are meant to respect titles, but we'll try and stick to Catherine Muma. But in the event it slips to doctor, understand it is just on our tongues for the moment. Thank you nonetheless. Marcus, if you can hear me.
Good morning, Duncan Ahemba, and good morning, everyone else in the house. My name is Marcus Agenga. I work for the Elections Observation Group. I'm very much delighted to be part of this conversation, and I hope to learn a lot from the members. Thank you very much.
Well, fair enough. Miss Muma, we are at 22 minutes. 22 minutes past 10. There are mics that I think the host needs to mute them. I think they porters. Yes, thank you. So for 5 minutes or less, if you make it brief, Madam Muma, kindly take us through, give us your assessment on the current political environment in Kenya, where we are and where we are headed in the high voltage succession politics. Could you just give us a digest, a brief on what your assessment is on the current political environment in Kenya? It's at 10:23, so I intend to stop you at 10:30. Kindly proceed.
Okay, my assessment of the political environment is that it's volatile in the sense that we have a hyped environment around how to move, much as we try to focus on other things. I think the equation of 2022 keeps popping in. Whether you want to discuss BBI, whether you want to discuss the ruling party and what's happening within the ruling party, you find that basically we have gone into campaign modes, at least for some parties, without that declaration by law. So basically what we have is political machinations and planning for 2022 elections. And this has actually heightened organization by ethnicity, by party. We have arrangements that are trying to confine political parties into ethnic enclaves. And if there is the recent by-elections that we had, anything to go by, I think we are going into the wrong direction in terms of making elections a do or die issue, where we are willing to use violence, we are willing to do anything to get office. So my take is that one, we need, there is need to revisit our environment to find out whether our instruments of law are properly prepared to actually moderate elections in the manner that is expected under the Constitution and the laws of Kenya as we go to 2022. From the just past by-election, it's clear that there is no, I didn't see the election management body, for instance, rise up to the occasion to demand a fair process. I mean, in terms of respect for the rule of law. I didn't see the law enforcement officers do so. I did not see the government in place seem to have an interest in a free and fair process. So I am worried about the laxity in the law enforcement mechanism around electoral processes. And I am a worried person in terms of what 2022 might portend.
Thank you, Marcus. Your assessment before we revisit some of the issues the chair, elections board chairperson has raised. Marcus, please.
Thank you very much, Duncan. Once again, for those who have just come in, my name is Marcus from the Elections Observation Group. I want to just reiterate what Catherine has indicated, that we are facing somewhat a similar situation in the country. Every time there is a transition in leadership, the stakes are always very high. The political climate becomes very emotive. It becomes a do or die for some actors in this country. Having said that, a number of issues keep on coming up, which I think should concern us as a country. One, this what I've called here institutional weaknesses that we are seeing around, and some of them are caused from lack of proper funding to those institutions. For instance, the electoral management body is preparing for a number of processes. The question we need to ask ourselves is whether we have adequately financed the IEBC, for instance. The judiciary keeps on asking for human resources to be able to do its work. We have a transition taking place at the judiciary as well. We have a number of institutions, for instance, PPDT, which is a very crucial organ of dispute resolution mechanisms in the country. We know, for instance, that they are domiciled here in Nairobi, yet we also understand the need for a devolved dispute resolution mechanisms. And of course, even the tribunal members, they are not sufficiently given enough numbers at the tribunal. I think there are now 3 or 4 members against 7 or thereabout number. So even at the PPDT, we are moving into an election phase. We are moving into a number of processes without proper constitution of some of these institutions that are key to our electoral process. The other issue that I've picked up is the issue of what appears to be state capture. It appears to be because we cannot prove it, but it's you almost see it, that a number of institutions appear not to be independent. A number of offices appear not to be independent, yet they need to be independent in both substance and in their operations. And that's a major worrying trend. The other issue is what we call the rising state of insecurity, especially electoral insecurity in the country. And of course, I want to link this with 2 issues. First, what Catherine spoke about in terms of enforcement of electoral laws. Are we saying that what we are seeing in the by-elections is as a result of weak enforcement in terms of the laws that govern those elections? Or is it selective enforcement of laws? Or is it that our electoral legal infrastructure is defective and therefore is not able to understand and respond to the needs that we are seeing around? That is a major worry for me. Lastly, Kenya is a political party democracy, as it were. Our political parties in Kenya is becoming a major letdown, of course, and with the, with all respect to the political parties who are here, but I think there's need, as observers, we are seeing weak infrastructures within the parties themselves. We are seeing weak intra and inter-party democracies within the parties themselves. And I think moving forward, it's something that we need to single out and discuss in this in this meeting. Back to you, Duncan.
Thank you, Marcus. You've preempted my questions. I wanted you to tackle the question Muma had raised, and I will pose to Muma the question you have raised. But now that you've almost handled 3/4 of the question on laxity in law enforcement, you've come out with some heavy terminologies: the defective legal structure, the political parties appearing to be weak links, so having a weak infrastructure. I want to ask you, before we bounce it off to Muma, as ILOG, politics being a political process, there seems to be a thin line with the police interference, in that should the police be involved too much, there are those that as observers at ILOG, you'll come up and say maybe there was too much police interference. If they push back and allow not to engage, then it's like police were not responsive or could not do much. So at what point do you draw the line? And with this, I'll take you to London Ward in Nakuru, where the UDA, yes, they won the seat, but they were heavily blaming police that the state machinery, that they are being unfair to them. And unfortunately, they still won the seat. But we have in areas in Matungu where the police, there were 3 political parties at the center of the storm. That is ANC, that is UDA and ODM. The violence was heavy, and there are parties that never made any complaint. Now, I don't know whether because they performed fairly well, but there are those that felt the police were a bit relaxed, and they seemed to be looking at the other side. So the question, Marcus, at what point should the police get involved? In that, if they are too much, they'll be told they're interfering with the political process, while if they allow the political process to flow, then they are seemed to be not doing much to arrest the situation. How do we handle that before we take Muma on board?
Thank you, Duncan. And I mean, you're putting a dilemma, but I would call it a false dilemma, in this sense that the National Police Service is, and of course we are speaking under the confines of our constitution that sees them as a service, utumishi kwa wote, should ideally be should actually keep law and order. To the extent that they stick to that mandate, then it's not a question whether they're doing much or less. They should stick to that mandate regardless of your political persuasion, regardless of what orders they receive. Having said that, of course, the truth of the matter is that we have witnessed what we would call systematic and undue influence, where the police services are used to respond and almost to to teach some categories of people a lesson. The interference we see around, the heavy deployment of police officers sometimes seen around, the violence that either the police themselves met on people or are meted on them is a crucial concern for our country. Now, there are 2 things that as observers we have noted. First, that there is need in this country to, you see, elections is really a field that we think everyone knows. But elections is a very, is a nuance, and it's a very important element of our democracy. And we wake up, take the police to a polling station and expect them to just keep law and order. They don't even understand the process themselves. So one of the things that as observers we have indicated that there's need for the police who will be deployed in any elective exercise to be undertaken to go through some sort of a training on what elections are and what their role is during an election. And that is simply lacking in this country, at least not in the manner in which we as observers want it to be done. The second thing that I would also say is that the police officers in this country need to stick to the confines of the law, because they are supposed to keep law and order. And so when they break law and order, then that is a major problem for this country. And so it tells the public that we can never run to, so whom do we run to when law is broken, when themselves they are breaking the law? So I would just say that for now, it is false dilemma in the sense that whether they, and let them just stick to what they need to do, and I'm sure they know what they need to do, but also urge the stakeholders, and especially the National Police Service, to consider having the police officers will be deployed in any election, whether for political parties or for the national elections, to undergo some sort of capacity building training on the basic features of an election. That perhaps might also improve on how things will be done moving forward. Thanks.
Fair enough. Madam Muma, let us start from tell us political parties, the weak links here, with the weak infrastructure. Do you stand accused?
No, it's not Kali. Please mute somebody. There's somebody who's interfering with that. Brenda.
Yes, just hold on. The host, are you able to deal with those mics kindly?
Yes, Duncan is dealing with it. Let me just try and get him on board.
Okay, Duncan, let me just, before I speak about the political party infrastructure, allow me to say a little about the role of the police during the electoral process. One, the police is a security service paid for by the taxpayer. And they are usually deployed in all elections. Political parties can actually pay for services of police to man their process, but they are usually deployed in polling processes. And their role is simple. Their role is simply to secure the process, to ensure that citizens or voters are able to freely walk to polling stations, exercise their right, and walk away. To also ensure that the different processes that are under the supervision of the IEBC or the Electoral Management Board go on smoothly without interference. And this is a simple job. It's basically ensuring that you do not allow any person to interfere with this process. If Elog was in Matungu, you watched what happened. You saw a public leader commandeering goons with weapons, attacking electoral officers, attacking voters, attacking agents of other parties, and the police was watching as all this was happening. Clearly showing that the police was being partisan, supporting one political party which had decided to bring thugs to actually commandeer what was happening in a number of polling stations. My surprise is that the IEBC proceeds and declares a result, despite all this interference. My surprise is that even as people are stabbed, there was a boy who was shot, there was a youth who was stabbed, there was a lady whose ear was cut, there were people who were brutalized, and the police were watching. In my view, we have actually reached a point where you will be stupid not to hire thugs if you're going to elections, if this is what the police are supposed to do. And therefore, in my view, it is not about training the police. The police know exactly what their role is. This is not the first election that is happening in Kenya. It has always happened. It's not that they don't know or they're ignorant about what they're supposed to do. This is about state interference with an electoral process. It is important for us to know that the winner in elections should always be the electorate, should always be the citizen. It is never a candidate or whatever. It is about the citizen. It's the citizens who need to cast their vote. It's the citizens' vote which must be protected. And it's the citizens' vote that must be tallied at the end of the day for us to know that the citizens of Matungu, the citizens of London Ward, the citizens of wherever have decided to have so and so as their representative. I think it is important for us to clarify that. And I feel that the last by-elections, we have had a letdown at all levels, including the observers who I have not seen, well, maybe, let me not castigate or cast aspersions on the observers, but a lot more could have been done. And in my view, if nothing is done about what happened in the last by-elections, then next year we should be prepared to go to war, because we are asking candidates to actually come with tags to elections. And you can imagine the number of candidates we have in the country, each carrying their tags, political parties hiring their tags. We are actually going to war. And we need to take this issue seriously. Now, on your question on the political party infrastructure, I will not speak for any other party. I will speak for ODM. As far as I'm concerned, the ODM party, after 2017 elections, actually decided to do an introspection. And I was appointed as chair of a task force to actually review the elections of 2017, particularly the party primary elections. And I wrote a report that made very broad recommendations on how the party must prepare itself to ensure that it delivers one, free and fair party primaries, but that it also ensures inclusive participation by all its members. As far as ODM is concerned, we have been in office for nearly about, I was appointed maybe in September last year. We've been in August last year. And as a new national elections board, we are actually working on the systems of ODM to ensure that we have an environment and a system that is able to deliver free and fair elections. So what we have done in ODM is that we have reviewed electoral rules and regulations, and we now will have very clear electoral rules and regulations, which will provide for all the methodologies that we are going to use. We have, you may have seen recently that I called for a review of the membership register. We are actually cleaning up our register to ensure that the ODM polling processes only involve ODM members. You are all aware that party primaries in Kenya is an everybody business, where you find that when ODM is doing party primaries, Jubilee guys will be queuing there. When Jubilee is doing party primaries, ODM guys will be queuing there. And at least under my watch, and what we have agreed within the party in ODM, that as we move forward, the ODM electoral processes will only involve ODM members. So as we are speaking, membership drive, membership registration is continuing. We are working with ORPP to verify the membership of all our, all those who call themselves as ODM members, and our processes will only involve ODM members. We are in the process, actually we were about to announce how to move on our party grassroots elections. and party grassroots elections for ODM are important because when we nominate our presidential candidates, we actually use a delegates list, and that delegates list comes from our party structures. So we are in the process of actually getting that renewed in accordance with our constitution. And next week we have a meeting to actually do the final discussion on how to move given the new COVID restrictions from the president. We had actually planned to schedule a meeting in every ward, but the population will be high. So we are rethinking on how to do this. And we are moving on to ensure that we actually revamp our structures in order to get this done. So as far as ODM is concerned, we are actually in the process of putting the systems in place, putting our processes in place to ensure that we are prepared. One of the things we will be doing is looking at the political party primaries bill, which is before Parliament and has been advertised. And what we need is actually for Parliament to give ample time for political parties to carry out credible elections. In my view, 90 days in that bill is not adequate at all. You cannot, well, it may be adequate for briefcase parties or ethnic parties that only have 10 members. If those ones can actually carry out in 30 days, but for a huge national party like ODM, we would want a minimum of 6 months to be able to carry out party primaries so that we are able to stagger those elections in order to carry out credible elections. I'll stop there for the time being, and I can come back on a follow-up question.
Thank you. It's good to note that you've informed us what ODM is engaging in is what you would call a fumigation of the register, doing contact tracing to ensure you don't have rogue members. That was in response to the question that Marcus had raised on the weak party infrastructure. We will definitely pick up the other questions, but before we lose our trail of thought, I wanted you to respond to issues Marcus had raised, the institutional weaknesses. For instance, IBC being financially starved, the PPDP having insufficient numbers. This is a political process. Do you think all these things existing, are they by design or by default? We cannot rule out that it is a political process, and maybe who has the cards can control how the game is played. How do you explain the perennial cries of IBC being financially starved or the PPDP having insufficient numbers of members and therefore creating a backlog on matters that need to be handled instantly? So your response to that, and then we'll be engaging Maureen to know how many people we have on board. Of course, we have representatives from other parties that would also want to pick their minds on few issues, but by and large, I think the discussants will have the huge chunk of the cake. So briefly, Madam Mumo, is it by design or default that we have these issues that Marcus is referring to as institutional weaknesses?
My view is this. One, the most important resource that any institution has, for instance, the electoral management body, it's independence, really, and exercising that independence. The finance is just an enabler. Do you think the IBC's failure to hold parties responsible in the past by-elections was because they lacked money? It's because they lack spine. It's not because they lack money. We need an electoral management body that can enforce the law, can say this is an electoral offense, and if you politicians are going to take over my process, I am going to nullify these elections by 10 a.m. That's what we need. We need, and we've given them those constitutional powers to be able to stand firm and insist that nobody will interfere with their processes. So I don't think the interference with electoral processes is because they lack money. I'm sorry to say. So the first thing is we need an EMB that has spine. An EMB that will stick to its guns, will not listen to politicians, will do what is right at the right time. An EMB that will look at the regulations, regulations, and be able to say, to advise all of us to be able to say, for instance, I think this regulation put by Parliament inhibits a free and fair elections in the following manner. Therefore, I am insisting that you provide this in order for political parties to deliver free and fair primaries. You do this in order for me as an EMB to be able to do this. I would want to see that conversation publicly where the EMB is telling us, yes, I'm ready to do this, which will deliver this, but I'm inhibited by money because of this. But when we just say it is money out in the air, we simplify what the role of this EMB is. It's not just about money. It's about taking serious responsibility about a free and fair electoral process. So I don't buy that at all. The dispute resolution mechanisms is something we clearly need to look at. And in my view, it will not be salvaged merely by having more staff. It will be salvaged by sanitizing the process from the political party's point of view. If we have a fairer process from political parties, the number of cases that will require to go to arbitration will be minimized, and the human resource factor will be neither here nor there. So we need to actually not just look at the number of people sitting at an institution. We need to look at the entire process to find out when you give political parties, or when political parties are carrying out elections 2 weeks to the general elections, do we reasonably have adequate time for that election to be carried out, for the internal dispute resolution mechanism to be carried out, in order for it to be, then for appeal to happen up to the courts? Do we have reasonable time? In my view, no. So when you have the bill before Parliament right now proposing 90 days, we are setting ourselves up for failure. We need political parties to prepare to be ready to make decisions on who will represent them 6 months before elections and let the fallout happen. But you see, it is members of Parliament who are passing this law in Parliament, but because they like party hopping, they want this as near as possible to the general election so that they can do party hopping. What we need to do is to cure the political mischief around party hopping so that a party should be able to even determine its candidates even a year before we go to elections. You may have noticed that in ODM, we've already advertised on who our presidential candidate will be, because we think it is a decision that can be made as early as possible, and we cannot be beholden onto any other person telling us do it a week before and all the other. So in my view, we need to know that the electoral process is not a little event. Everything you do affects the credibility of the entire process. So we need to look at the entire process of party primaries and decide when is best for party primaries to happen if we want to have credible party primaries.
Thank you. I think we have representatives from KANU, LPK, WIPA, and PDU. Anybody who would also want to address this matter of political parties, the weak link? Of course, Madam Uma has said she can only speak for her party ODM, and we wouldn't want it to be an ODM matter now that we still have other representatives. Please, Maureen, I don't know whom do we have that we can pick to, at least now that they're representing their political outfits here.
Duncan, I can see Abubakar has raised his hand. Abubakar is from KANU.
Thank you, Abubakar from KANU. You have the floor. Please proceed.
Hello, guys. Hello.
Yes, proceed, Abubakar.
Hear me.
Yes,
There's
you can
not
proceed.
election with everything. It will never happen. Since time immemorial, things come up. Matungu came up. You want to tell me guys are not prepared for that? London what? Guys are not prepared for that. These are things which will always come, one way or another. And the most people who are doing this are the nominated MPs. They're nominated simply because they want to show their party we are capable. Being in politics, yeah, way 2, 3, 4 ways out. Somebody will want to vie. Somebody will want to be nominated. To be nominated, you have to be visible in your party. That's why you are seeing in a party X, there are so many of them, they even don't know what they're doing. They just fight. So in Matungu, some guys went there to earn that. We want to be nominated. So when it comes that time, I'm here. I did things for you. So these things will never come out as perfect. IBC will never have 1 billion shillings. They'll never be given. They won't have all the machines they want. They'll never be given. We are talking about replacing the top brass. When are we doing that? This is 2021. When are we doing that? When are we doing that? So perfect solutions are not there. We'll go to elections with what we have. You lose, you cry and go to the hospital. You win, you stuck. But the good thing is, my children, your children, they may test what you're saying. They may understand what you're saying. But my generation, your generation, never. You have the same kasumba. Kuja na pesa, tuchape wa jamaa. Wako wengi pande ile. That's their stronghold. Wacha tuwalime. That's what people do. We were in London. We saw London. And this is from Nairobi. London is not a constituency. It's a ward. A ward. With no importance. It's only about 18 months for a general election. Why should I take an MP from Nairobi to go to London and bring chaos? And everybody is looking. Yes, everybody is looking. What is the work of a police? Keep peace. Ufanye kitu crime, anakushika hata ukimkomboa. Haone mtu anavuta bangi pale. Atachukua mtu wa bangi amtie ndani kwanza. That's what they're told. So hii akiambiwa hiyo 200 angalia kushoto. Hata angalia kushoto. We are Kenyans. But the next generation, maybe next generation, will do something. Asante.
Asante sana Abubakar. Clearly, I take home from you political indiscipline. Political indiscipline. Nominated leaders are leading the charge, trying to please their appointing masters. Thank you. Who else do we have? Maureen there for the party, at least the Independence KANU party imewika sawasawa.
Dan, we also have Joyce Aoki. She's from LPK. I can see her hand is raised. Maybe she can go.
Joyce from LPK, thank you. Take the floor. And if you can be as brief as Abubakar, Shukuru, but we are not gagging you, but we are just being time conscious. Please proceed. Joyce, can you hear us? Maureen looks like she's not ready. Who else do we have?
Me?
Oh, yes. Here you, Joyce. Proceed.
Yes, I'm saying the problem starts with the politicians. When going into an election, they go with one mind that it has to be me, it must be me. Yeah, so they do whatever they can, including hiring those goons to destroy the election process. That is where the problem begins. But if we were to have a liberal mind whereby let the best candidate win, then we won't be experiencing what we are experiencing right now. So the other thing is about the IEBC. We've had these perennial leaders, starting from the grassroots, the same clerks day in, day out, the same presiding officers day in, day out. So these leaders know that for a certain area, it's so and so who normally mans the station. So what do? I have to buy him or her out. So when they buy them out, these leaders also have to do all that is within their means to ensure that their candidate of choice has taken the day. So unless maybe we look at things such like those ones to ensure that maybe IBC, if it can be changing these leaders manning the stations, maybe we can solve the situation. Thank you. Joyce Auki from LPK Party.
Thank you, Joyce. I can see Rosalind Luvaha from LPK as well. If you can be brief, then before we cross over to Roy and Isaiah. Rosalind?
Duncan, even as we wait for Rosalind to unmute her mic and maybe contribute to the discussions, let me say that last month we held meetings with various political parties that, we looked into their current nomination and election rules, and we found out that actually most of the political parties, what they lack within their structures is the resolution mechanisms, structure to enable them to have the disputes resolved first within the political party before they can even accelerate it to the PPDT and the other.
Maureen, you've decided to gag yourself as well. We've lost your audio. Maureen, I'm afraid we've lost your audio. Maureen, we've lost your audio. Is it only me or you can hear her?
No, I can't hear her. Same here.
Maureen, we've lost your audio, or members can't hear you, but participants cannot hear you. Maybe before we get her, do we have, let me try and see from this other end, who else can we go with? Roy, can you hear us, Roy from Wiper?
Niwaambie? Duncan?
Yes.
This is Tracy from the Center for Multi-Party Democracy, Kenya. My colleague Maureen seems to have lost her internet connectivity, but we're working on regaining that. Please bear with us for the meantime.
Thank you, Tracy. As I was saying, Roy, can you go on behalf of Wiper? Roy seems he's not ready. Isaiah Ndirangu from PDU, can you hear us? I think we can't get the rest. Marcus, briefly, of course, we had that rejoinder from Madam Mumo, and then we've had Abubakar, we've had Joyce. What do you have in terms of the matters that they've raised? They seem to be saying we are not the problem, and in one way or the other, they are saying it seems to be largely lack of political goodwill and political indiscipline. Marcus.
Yeah, thank you, Duncan. I think we need to mute those who are not speaking for us to be able to communicate well. I understood Catherine very well. I respect her way of seeing things. They're quite different from mine. Some of them are complementary. I still, I mean, of course, for instance, it is important to indicate that sometimes we set institutions to fail, either by removing what we give them by law. Let me address the EMB, for instance, the IEBC as an example. Alone, if you look at even what we are coming from the last election, until today, they owe people about 3 billion shillings that they haven't been able to pay. There are a number of systems they need to put in place that require money to be able to contribute towards their mandate as given to them by the law. So when you fail to create some form of financial independence, you starve them. And of course, the old saying, "He who pays the piper calls the tune," is quite key in this regard. So, starve them money, then they won't be able to discharge their mandate. That is number one. But of course, I'm not excusing any of those duty bearers from discharging their mandate, but I'm also saying that sometimes we also need to sufficiently provide for their mandate and therefore hold them accountable. You wanted money, we give you money. You wanted these laws, we give you these laws. So tell us why you are failing. The second thing I want to say is I still believe that political parties, including the ODM party represented here and that has spoken, have continued somewhat to be a very weak link in the realization of our party and electoral democracy in this country. I'm happy that ODM has had internal reviews and have made changes. And of course, I've seen Tony Muturi here. And in the last election, we were able to work very closely with the ODM party, and we also shared our own findings with them. We were able to share our concerns as observers with the parties that we observe their processes. And we are yet, of course, I'm happy that the ODM party has been able to make changes, and we are waiting to see how those changes will translate into something that is tangible. But having said that, I would like to say that there is this issue of doctrine of exhaustion. And I'm now coming into the dispute resolution mechanisms within the political parties themselves. Now, the question that we need to understand, just apart from the primaries, just apart from having clean register of party members, putting enough in place good structures within the party, I would also want to hear, moving forward, how other parties have put in place structures that will allow internal dispute resolution mechanisms to take place in free and fair manner. Because what we have seen in the past is that people don't trust some of these IDRM processes within their parties. And that's why you find guys having multiple lodging of complaints. They don't trust Party X, internal dispute resolution process. They move to PBDT. They don't trust their own party structures. They move again and lodge complaints at the High Court. So I think some work needs to be done regarding the internal dispute resolution mechanisms within those parties. Make those structures strong, make them equally independent, make them also answerable to the people and to the party. What you have seen before is that guys have accused them of being simply mouthpieces of the so-called party owners. That is something I wanted to underline there, because in this country and in most parts of this country, political party primaries is, as it were, a mini election. The moment you won a party primary ticket, chances of you being elected in National Assembly or Senate or presidency or even the county assembly is very high. So the whole issue within the parties in terms of the way they conduct their party primaries is very key, and hence the party primaries bill, which is before the House and which, of course, will need to be looked at, and we're hoping that it can be passed, and then we can have something to guide us as a structure. The other thing I wanted to say is that we put so much premium on the other electoral actors as citizens. We put so much premium as on IEBC to conduct credible process, but the parties themselves in their own processes fail miserably to conduct credible processes within their own institutions. So I hope that even as we move to 2022, those not only ODM, but also other parties would put in place those structures, those legal provisions or policy documents that will allow elections within those parties become credible, free, fair, and peaceful in nature. The other thing I wanted to speak about is the question of integrated political parties management system. I've seen someone from the IEBC, from the ORPP, and perhaps Duncan, if you allow me, I would just simply ask him to, at some point, Mr. Kanja, at some point to speak to where the office is in terms of integrated political parties management system, because again, those are some of the issues we are saying if they are put in place, they would somehow bring some sort of discipline into the political parties moving forward. And lastly, the question that Abubakar mentioned, and which I think is becoming a major problem, is there's some sort of apathy, there's some lethargy within some section of population. You know, guys are saying, I don't see why should I line up, whether for a party primary or for for national election, yet I don't see the results, because as said earlier, elections belong to the people. Elections is a fundamental human right that must be celebrated. So the question someone asked, I've been in the queue for the last 4 hours. My vote it appears to mean nothing. So hence the apathy, hence the lethargy we're seeing around. But I want to believe that these platforms that we bring in a number of actors together. And for instance, we are now hearing what ODM has done. I'm sure other parties are doing something as such. I'm sure these things will allow us to improve on our structures, we improve on our systems, and we improve on the political parties as institutions of democracy.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you. Looking at the program, we are supposed to get into Q&A from 11:30 to 12:30. And I don't know what the opinion of other participants are or is, whoever thinks otherwise, but I'm thinking maybe Kanja on behalf of the ORPP, and I think either Brenda Ondieki or Sylvester Carrier from the PPDT. I don't know whether we should, I'm thinking they are best placed to come in under the Q&A so that we take them on. However, I think because, yes, that is my opinion. I don't know what others think, so that we have them more answering some of these questions, because largely we've had what representatives from political parties and Marcus from ILOG says. I don't know what some of you think, that the PPDT and the ORPP comes in under the Q&A.
Sorry to interject. My name is Brenda from Kano. I had raised my hand not because my contribution belongs. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear Brenda. Sorry.
Okay. My contribution does not belong to the Q&A. I just wanted to concur with what Mr. Marcus has spoken about. And as KANU, we are very keen on the question of dispute resolution, proper vetting of candidates, and streamlining the party primaries and nominations, because we were having a very candid discussion when party officials opened up and disclosed that they spent an enormous amount of money during the last elections after they had been taken to court severally by different people with different complaints. And they were just discussing and making it clear that in the coming elections, they're going to have very proper dispute resolution mechanisms to minimize the losses that they incurred as a result of court cases. Also, I am just hoping that there will be enough support for the police, the IEBC, and other organizations that are directly involved in the management of elections, just to boost public confidence that they have helped them to put the people they want in power. Thank you. That's my contribution.
Thank you, Brenda. And I must apologize. Yes, the flight is airborne. We are co-pilots. From where I am, I cannot be able to get who is on board, but my co-pilot Maureen has been side chatting me. But of course, we know that we lost at some point. So I've not been able to spot you. Sorry for that. And it's good that you've moved on the table and made your voice heard more so, and I'm encouraged. You are a lady. So thank you so much, Brenda. And I'm just looking at it. I don't know whether we flip the coin.
It's going. And, it's okay.
I don't know who else would want to chip in, but I'm thinking we go to the election. The season is here, and we briefly look at the parties that are here, and maybe we address this matter of election preparedness. However, I would have thought it would be important to look at the bigger picture IEBC. Of course, we know that they are not fully constituted or properly constituted. And part of the recommendations Johan Kriegler said was the idea that we don't allow members to be occupying the office when it's too late in the day. We remember the current team was constituted barely 6 months to the August 2017 general election, and we could see the difficulties they were in. Other commissioners resigned much earlier. Until now, nothing has happened. Of course, being a political process, the players are looking the other side because they know when it will be opportune to do that. So I don't know whether we handle the political parties' preparedness or we address this IEBC issue. But since we still have today and tomorrow, and we have more time, should we push the IEBC subject for tomorrow? I don't know what participants think, because it is a dialogue, so we agree. What do members think we agree? What do we look at now before we open the Q&A?
Duncan, if I may.
Please proceed.
Okay. I think I don't think we have any IEBC member or staff in this meeting, do we?
No, Marcus. Unfortunately, we were not. They were not able to join in.
All right. Are they
I
coming
was expecting
tomorrow?
one of them. We're hoping that we will be having them on board tomorrow and Friday,
Very well.
considering that there are by-elections that are going on in Machakos.
Yes. I would suggest that since we have no representative from the IEBC, unless something is really burning, we could shelve the concerns until tomorrow and address issues relating to the EMB tomorrow when they're in the House. And then for the purpose of, because I can see many political parties are here, we could address issues relating to the political parties in this meeting because many of them are here. As well as any question relating to the office of the Registrar of Political Parties, as well as PTBT. They're all here.
Thank you. Anybody else with a different opinion?
Duncan, not an opinion, but I wanted to say something on political parties. Is that okay?
Please proceed.
Thanks, Duncan. Now, my view is that maybe it is time in Kenya we seriously focused on appreciating the fact that political parties are actually maybe a primary tool that influences our governance and development agenda as a country. And it's time for us to, as a country, individually and collectively, seriously think about investment in political parties. If you look at the current electoral leaders that we have, 97% of those came through political parties, meaning that we are largely, what we are doing today, all our governance infrastructure is basically driven by political parties. So because of this, we need to seriously think about how we ensure that this tool or this institution that is the primary driver of our governance and development agenda is structured in such a way that it is credible, it is viable, it is responsible, it is accountable to the electorate. So in my view, maybe Marcus, I don't know, for those of you who are in civil society, I'm a human rights person myself, that's where I come from. To what extent can we start asking is, rather than just point fingers at political parties, what are we doing as civil societies to hold political parties accountable in terms of their processes? So I'm thinking maybe we are at that stage where we need to communicate to Kenyans the importance of political parties, and within political parties also to communicate the importance of understanding that this is a membership organization brought together by some ideology and driven in a particular way, so that it is not just a vehicle. In Kenya, oftentimes, political parties are vehicles for helping somebody to get into parliament, for helping somebody to get into a county assembly. So how do we ensure that even within political parties, that we are able to meet the bill in terms of what a political party should be? Now, when I looked at the political parties primaries bill, I see the danger of parliament coming to prescribe what happens in a membership institution. And if we go that way, in my view, it is dangerous. Parliament needs to just give broad statutory common guidelines that can appear to all political parties, but Parliament cannot prescribe for any political party what it needs to do in its nomination process. Nomination process, for instance, will take different methodologies. In my view, it must be a combination of merit, it must be a combination of what the people want, must also be a combination of a test of political party membership on who subscribes to that political party, who is loyal to that political party, who is loyal to the ideology of the party. And these are things that we don't usually discuss. We just discuss these political parties as vehicles. And as a result, no wonder they are criticized as being individual members of vehicles. So the question I'm throwing out there, how are we contributing to helping political parties, important as they are, to be what they are expected to be to the electorate?
Thank you. Thank you. And I think on that note, we'll go for Joseph Kanja from the Office of Registrar of Political Parties. Pick from where the question Madam Catherine Muma has posed: how do we help political parties? And then as Kanja takes the floor, Brenda Ondieki from the Political Parties District Tribunal, you'll take the floor, and then from there I think we'll be good to go for Q&A, because I can see time all of a sudden is flying fast. So Kanja, the floor is yours. Marcus had asked the question about the status on the integrated management system. I almost thought it is IFMIS, but this is IMS for political parties.
Joseph, kindly unmute first.
Can you now hear me?
Yes, Joseph, we can hear you and we can also see you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for inviting us to this very, very important dialogue forum. I want first of all to start with the issue of the integrated political parties management system. We are still upgrading it. As of now, well, we are first of all dealing with the membership bit, making sure that all the members of each and every political party are as per the records of the political parties themselves, and making sure that there is no person who is a member of this party and also a member of this other party. We are also trying to link our database with other databases, particularly the voter register from IBC, also the data for registration and births, because we may also be having some dead members in our voter register, in our membership register. So we are trying first of all to clean on that, and we're in the process of upgrading it so that the other modules that relate to the management of political parties are well streamlined. There are some issues that we are still waiting for. We know we're in the process of, we are waiting for the outcome of whatever will happen with the BBI process, because it may have some directions that it will give towards now some of these legal reforms that we are talking about. And therefore, and until the process is done with, that's the time we'll be in a position now to even upgrade or even, for example, amend even the Political Parties Act. So the issue of the IPPMS is still going on, but as of now, we are particularly handling the issue of the membership register of political parties. On the other issue of institutionalizing political parties, or ensuring that political parties are really public institutions, we still need to continue with the legal reforms to ensure that when you look at or you hear a certain political party, you don't associate it with a particular person. You hear of this party, you associate it with this. And how can you do that? First of all, is to remove the issue of just one person being the overall person funding that political party. And this is where we need a lot of inputs on how we are going to make the campaign finance act, how we are going to implement it, because that is one of the processes where we will reduce that influence of one person to one person influencing the whole process of a political party. Again, sensitizing political parties on the conduct of their own elections. When you look at our country today, which political party has conducted has conducted elections, in the internal elections of the party? I've had ODMs in the process, but when you look at previously, which party can you say that has done that? This is something that we are trying to look at, to ensure that political parties conduct their elections as per their party constitutions, because in all their constitutions, they've spelled out that they are supposed to conduct their elections after this period. So this is something that we are trying to follow up to ensure that all of them do that. And that is one way of ensuring that these political parties, are are institutions, are sort of public institutions owned by their members. I think as of now, okay, I wanted also to mention something concerning the political parties primaries bill. I think this is a process that we worked on together involving nearly all of you, particularly all the political parties. And now when it goes to parliament, we no longer have a direct whatever to whatever they do to it. And this is where we would need support from all of you to ensure that it is passed and passed in the way that it will be of assistance to all the political parties in our country. I think I'm going to stop at that. And unless there is anything else that you'd want me maybe to talk about.
Before you go, I would want to ask you a matter that you've raised. I don't know whether other members, they're at liberty, if they will also pick it up with you under the Q&A, but just in case they don't, let me ask this, you take it down, we cross over to Brenda, and then we might start from there. You've said that parties are not conducting their respective elections as per respective party constitutions. Of course, we've seen the Jubilee faction. I don't know whether they are Jubilee factions or now UDA as they stand. They are saying those purporting to kick out the deputy president as the deputy party leader have no basis legally because they were interim party officials and their term expired. Until now, we have ghost people running the party. So my question to you, as ORPP, who needs to raise these matters and what point and at what point? Because how do you explain Jubilee Party that was formed in 2016 until now there has never been an attempt? Of course, ODM has tried to do elections. We will take it up with Madam Muma. We know how it ended up in 2014, but at least that is a party that has attempted to do party elections. And of course, the officials as they are, I don't know for how long they would be continuing in those positions because they were handpicked and not elected. We know what happened in Kasarani, but at least you give credit to such outfit. Who needs to be addressing these matters where parties are existing, but they are not existing as per the law, in that they are not conducting periodic elections as spelled out in their respective party constitutions. Mr. Kanja, hold it there, or just go ahead before we cross over to Brenda.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, as an office, what we are doing right now is to make sure that all the political parties have got their constitutions that are the constitutions address that issue. And therefore, now, as an office, we are supposed to follow it up to ensure that the political parties follow their own constitutions. So the first thing that we are doing is to making sure that the political parties, their constitutions address that issue and address it properly.
How long are you going to follow up? Because I've just remembered the Jubilee one. Since 2016, they've never done elections. Of course, they'd indicated the interim basis, the other officials will be holding those positions. That time lapsed. So for how long are you going to follow it up? And even other parties that they don't conduct elections, for how long are you going to say you are following it up?
Thank you. I think as of now, all the political parties, we've made sure that they put their constitutions in line with the act. Towards that point, that is of their party elections. And after that, when the time will be due, we will ensure that each and every party conducts its elections.
Thank you. Brenda Ondieki from Political Parties Dispute Tribunal. Could you address us the issues that were raised? But I think, first of all, are you incapacitated? We understand that you don't have sufficient numbers and we've not had that one come out. Does it mean you are working optimally? And tied to that, Abu Bakar from Kanu said, it's not the issue of having the PPDT fully constituted. but it's a matter of political hygiene or political party dispute. But Catherine, on the same note, she has said there's no sufficient time to allow internal dispute resolution within parties because of how the window that is given when conducting party primaries to that effect, and when issues arise. What do you have to say on those issues briefly?
Good morning, Duncan, and thank you for inviting us to this important meeting. Although I will not be able to answer most of maybe questions that may be raised, I'll take comments or questions that I'll take back to my tribunal members who can then give feedback tomorrow. But for today, are you hearing me? You able to hear me?
Yes, we proceed, and we take cognizance of the matters you are waiting. Where I am, we always told that we should learn to throw punches within our weight category. So I'm glad that you've told us you'll throw punches within your weight category. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you. On the issue of capacity, indeed, currently the Act says that we should be having 7 members in the tribunal, but currently we have only 4, which means we are and we are hearing matters electronically via Teams. Although now that we are in the pre-election cycle, there is need for recruitment of more members to full capacity so that they will be able to manage the peak of the spike, the influx of cases that we anticipate to receive in the pre-election 2022. On the issue of timelines, indeed, it's an issue that we have observed that the timelines are very stringent. The timelines given, for example, in party nominations, you find that an example from the last elections, we had only 7 days to general election to handle all the influx of cases that came to PPDT. And that really caused a lot of havoc, as most of the cases then did not make sense. When they are given decisions, the decisions are delivered, and general election has already happened. I don't know if I've addressed all the questions. Duncan?
Yes, you've attempted, you've done fairly well, at least now that you've confirmed. I wanted to say Marcus would have been raising a rumor, but yes, you've confirmed his concerns that you're not fully constituted. You are 4, you have a deficit of 3, and then you've also seemed to back Madam Muma on the timelines being very stringent, so you also feel the weight on that end and the pressure. Of course, that time people want instant justice. Yes, please.
Yes, I would like to just also ask a question that will be probably answered tomorrow if Madam Catherine will pose it to the team, or if she's in a position to answer, it will be nice to know. I don't know if I can. Yes, so most political parties have ad hoc committees that are formed during the elections for dispute resolution. So they would be formed together with the National Elections Board so that they're only functional during the elections, when elections are about to be held. So I don't know if, as an advice to political parties, it will be interesting for them to have these committees constituted fully throughout the electioneering cycle, so that they have, in preparation for the election, they have a team that is constantly working to ensure that when the elections are here, there is a mechanism, or there is a way, or there is training that has already been done in terms of capacity building for them to be able to handle issues at their level, or a team that is trustworthy, given that they've been in office for almost 5 years, to handle cases, because most of them are constituted on a need-to-need basis or on a political handedness kind of a way. So and I don't know about other political parties, but for some, it is an ad hoc committee.
Thank you, Maureen. Thank you for that observation. And I think you're right. Catherine is the best person because of her portfolio. She's the chair, the National Elections Board at ODM or Chungwa House. So I think that one is taken in order. This is what I would want to propose. We take the route Maureen has picked. You pop in, you field your question to whom it is directed. And I think I'm proposing that we do a set of 4 questions. So we already have one. It was a comment that maybe Momo will decide whether to respond to, or she's taken note of that. So can we do quick questions? And then you say the person to whom the question is addressed to kindly. So we'll do 3, 3, 4, 4. And then we proceed, and then we see how far we'll be able to go. Anybody there, the question that you'd want to address to a specific person? Remember that we have Brenda and Abubakar from Kanu. We have Joyce from LPK here. We have the Office of Registrar of Political Parties. We have the PPDT. So kindly shoot your questions.
Duncan, as we wait for members to unmute and ask questions, maybe we want to look at the chat box. I can see Susan Mutuku has sent in a question that she has directed to Mr. Kanja.
Maureen, I don't know what is let me try and get that particular one. There's something I've tampered with something I'm trying to rectify. I just wanted to make sure that I'm stable throughout. After you disappeared, I couldn't risk going off air because I'm now the main pilot. So I had to make sure I've minimized everything to ensure that I remain airborne. But I think we can, Mr. Kanja, if you've been able to spot, or Maureen, you can just read the question straight now that you have the mic.
Yes, Susan Mutuku asks, I would like to pose a question to Mr. Kanja. The resignation process is currently very tedious. One has to fill up a form, take it to their offices to be resigned. I think she meant signed when they want to rejoin another political party. Do they have plans of digitizing this process? If such, that someone can just log into their website and resign without having to go into their offices, bearing in mind they do not have offices in every county.
Mr. Kanja, if you are there, please handle that.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for the question. I agree the issue of resignation is very tedious. The reason being, us as an office, we are not directly involved in that because these are members of a certain political party. So if somebody is resigning, he or she is supposed to resign to resign to the party. But as you may be aware, parties themselves are very reluctant to remove members from their register. So what we agreed in one of the meetings in the political parties liaison committee is that the person writes a letter to the political party and then gives us a copy of that because he is resigning from the political party. Then he gives us a copy of that resignation letter so that if he or she is not removed by the party after a certain time when we've already confirmed that the party received the resignation from that member of theirs, that's the only time that we go ahead to remove that person. And again, the person is supposed to go and join the party that he wishes to join himself. And the party, when that person gets into them, into their register. We have got a system that we work together with them. So when they register their members, they pass over that data to us online. It's our system checks whether that person is a member of another party or not. If he or she is a member of another party, the system returns a report back to the party, informing the party that that person or those people belong to another party and therefore cannot be in your party. So the issue of the resignation is supposed to be addressed from the political party side of it, because as an office, we cannot just remove you from, we'll be accused of removing people from one political party for them to join another one. So resignation is supposed to be to the political party. I hope I've answered the question.
Fair enough. You've adequately answered the question. I don't know anybody else who wants further clarification, or are we content with that strong and clear response?
Duncan, this is Susan. I am the one who had asked the question, but I think I am not yet satisfied, because you find someone wants to resign and they're somewhere in Samburu, and they have to fill the form for them to be resigned from the registrar of political parties. So I was asking him, is it possible for them to just digitize the whole process such that someone can just walk into a cyber and just do the resignation from there?
Yeah, thank you, Susan. I've already said that this person is a member of a political party. So it is not us to remove him or her from that register of that political party. We only remove him or her after he has written to the party and the party has refused to remove him. All he does, it takes some time. You know, parties are reluctant to remove people from their registers. So we'll have some problems if we allow that, because some people may even be getting into that register and removing other people. So for us, we are very careful to ensure that we do not interfere with the membership register of a party. It is the party that is supposed to remove you. We only do that after we are clear that you have received, after we are sure that the party has already received your resignation. I can also point that we've got some offices in, not in all counties. In fact, we've got offices in only 7 counties. We have got offices in Kisumu, Eldoret, Nakuru, Nyeri, Kitui, Isiolo, and Mombasa. But now, when it comes now to the issue of the resignation, look at it this way: it is a party affair. Our office cannot just get into the membership register and remove somebody. And until the party is already aware, the person is supposed to resign to the party, not to us. I want this one to be very clear, because I think there is a confusion. As if it is now us as the office of the registrar of political parties who are supposed to remove people from registers of political parties. That's not the case. It is the party that's supposed to do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Susan, I think that is in order. There's another comment from Marcus, and Marcus, I think from where I can see, is saying Election Financing Campaign Act has not been operationalized. There is even an amendment bill on PPFA even before being operationalized. Mr. Kanja.
Yeah, thank you. For now, the Election Campaign Finance Act, this is supposed to help to help institutionalize political parties. And this is domiciled in IBC. So to us as an office, we are only stakeholders in that. And this is something that we are supposed to take it up, all of us, to ensure that the Election Campaign Act is operational. We should come together and make sure that we push for it to be operational. But as I've said, it is not domiciled in our office, but as stakeholders, we would want it to be through, and that we would want it to be operational. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think members, now that I'm fully empowered, is it possible that we drop the charts, the questions on the chart, and then we can be able to pick and move a bit fast? But for now, I think Abubakar, do you have any question, or Brenda from Kanu on with Mr. Kanja?
Jambo, madam, I didn't get you properly.
This is me, the moderator, Duncan Haemba, not madam. I'm asking. I'm asking, je, na swali lolote kwa Mr. Kanja kwa niaba ya chama cha KANU? Nimekuwa na wewe na Brenda, na swali lolote ambalo ungependa kumuuliza Mr. Kanja. Tuna Brenda Undieki from PPDT. Maswala haya ulikuwa umesema upande wako, the numbers, the full constitution of the tribunal isn't the problem. The problem is political party indiscipline. Catherine Muma raised the issue of limited timelines in terms of even giving room for individual political parties to handle the matter internally. Unasema vipi?
Yeah, on such, my take is still, with the current environment, toa nichukue, my generation, your generation, we are stuck there. Once there is no goodwill in the government to give IEBC the 100% cash they require, is not there. It will be given in piecemeal. Secondly, the leaders of political parties somehow control IEBC. 2017, I saw a party which took their things late at night. IEBC took. Those guys were supposed to have been nullified. The thing is, let's pray whatever we are doing is foundation for the next generation. All these good things we are talking about, let's fight for them. But it will come into pass with my children. Then there won't be bribes, because there will be an act or something saying you give, tunakushoot mfano, so they won't take. Like it says, letter ingia, letter Peter. Imagine this: somebody senior enters a polling station with police all over and slapping the officials. Nothing happened that time. He walked away. Huyo angekuwa ameshikiwa hapo kama paka, kick, twende ndani. But our goodwill is not there yet. So long as we'll be staying in the matatu, tunaona polisi anachukua 50, and we are comfortable with it, we are not yet there. I'm sorry to say. So our IEBC will still make noise. So I don't have sufficient. The tribunals also. Are you getting? But whatever we are doing, the good thing we are doing, the next generation will have a paper and they'll see what we have been discussing. They will work on it and they'll make it better. By that time, ikiwa hujakufa unakaa pali, you laugh and say, this is what I was looking. Today, you go to vote. You are in the queue to vote. Somebody anakuja unampigia, nasema X ambaye ujinga hii 200 pigia Y. And it happens. 2013, I was in Rift Valley with a maroon car. Everybody believes a TNA car. I'm Kanu. Mtu anakuja mlevi anasema sijapiga kura na sipigi. Mpaka munipatie 100, mniambie nampigie nani? Na. Not this generation. Asante.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kanja, are you there? I have a question for you. Yes, Mr. Kanja.
Yes, I'm there.
You explained to Susan on how it is. You've made it to be extremely or properly formal for a member to make sure that they've resigned from the party and everything has been done. The only thing you request is a copy, and then you follow up with the respective party to ensure the registration has happened. Could you tell us how does it work for politicians who cross from one party to the other and it's almost instant, they've already changed the membership? I'll give you 2 instances. Elido Walo is ODM, immediately resigns, joins ANC party, has been cleared, is a bona fide member of ANC, contests Kibra seat. Oscar Nabulindo is an ODM member and a Ford Kenya member until a time when Moses Wetangula says the Ford Kenya is not going to engage to wrestle an elder brother in Matungu. They will not be fielding a candidate. And almost Nabulindo crosses over, becomes an ANC member, registered a member, and does exactly that. How is that one so smooth and swift compared to what Susan says, the difficulty they undergo when they want to be deregistered from a party?
Yeah, thank you for that question. What they do is that they still write a letter to their political party. They take the letter to that political party that they belong to, and then they come with a copy to our office. There is no way we can remove somebody from the register before the party before the party acknowledges having received his or her resignation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Marcus, Catherine Muma, any question?
Not really, no.
Thank you. So it looks like we've adequately handled the matters that deal with the Office of Registrar of Political Parties. Let me ask in terms of parties' election preparedness. We are here, and many parties, they've neither done proper elections for their parties, and the window for party primaries is almost knocking. We are almost there. What are the parties doing? And we'll start with you, Madam Chair, in your capacity as the chairperson, the National Elections Board in ODM. What are preparations the parties are doing? I think for the other members, I'm not sure whether they hold positions where they are mandated to speak for their parties, but at least for you, you are the chairperson of the Elections Board. What are the plans in terms of, first of all, making sure that you have bona fide party officials? Because Mr. Kanja has said many of the parties are not doing what their party constitution says. What we have, they are either interim or no election officials at all, and they are still existing. For ODM, if you can tell us what is going on.
Thank you very much. Now, ODM had planned party grassroots last year, and then came COVID, and we then prepared for harmonization. which was basically going back to the people to either replace those who have moved elsewhere, officials who moved elsewhere, and to affirm those in offices so that the structures get a refreshed mandate. We've been working on that, and all our county or grassroots structures have been alerted to basically begin the consensus building. The methodology ODM is using is a mixed methodology, where we are going to have consensus building as the first option, where members will come, let's say members in a polling station will come together to affirm whatever structures that they have, replace whoever is not there, so long as they follow the principles which we are setting to them, which means that every geographical location needs to be represented. We need to meet the not more than 2/3 gender. We need to include youth. We need to include persons with disability. So our teams have actually been alerted to begin that consensus building towards building these structures. You may have noticed in the media, we actually advertised for revamping of membership. That was part of it, because after a general election, you always have fallouts. You have people who walk away, you have people who move to other parties. And part of what we are doing is also revamping our membership register, so that by the time we finalize and affirm our party grassroots structures, we will be sure that every member on that party grassroots structure is a bona fide ODM member. Next week, we are meeting to actually issue final guidelines, as it were, drawn from our rules, basically to tell people, in view of the presidential directive, how we should guide them to operate at the grassroots level in a manner that will enable them to send back to us the structures that we need to then record. And then once we do that, the NEB will work with counties to affirm and to certify our lists, and we will be able to submit them to ORPP in accordance with the law. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Marcus, as an official from ELOG, what do you think, what is your take? Of course, the chair has given us a plan that her party is doing.
Duncan, forgive me, I was off a little bit. I didn't quite catch the question again when Catherine was speaking.
Yes, I'm saying I tasked Catherine because at least we said she's she's the chair of the election board in ODM, and basically wanted to know in terms of their preparations and all that. Of course, she has said the party had a proper clear plan in 2020, but COVID happened, and now they are being forced to adjust to the new normal. And of course, she had said her party is among the giant parties in the country in terms of the membership and all that, and therefore they would require a lot of resources and also enough in terms of doing the party primaries. But when COVID happened, now that plan was shelved. They are looking at alternatives, and there are specific plans that they've put in place. I wanted to know whether there is anything that you would want to ask ODM specifically, because she is the person we can hold accountable, and she can give us instant answers, courtesy of the position she holds in ODM.
Okay, thanks, Duncan. I think I want to start by addressing the question that Catherine had spoken to earlier about addressing ourselves to how do we invigorate the political parties themselves so that they become institutions, not just simply as vehicles. But I think that is very key, because almost 80% of our political seats are obtained through political party competitions. And so it's important that we work towards making these parties very strong, make them institutions. And of course, I'm speaking from, and I would refer the members in this meeting to a publication that was done by the Institute for Education and Democracy in 2016, 2016, that assessed a number of political parties in the country in terms of their adherence to the Articles 91 and 92 of the Constitution, as well as Political Parties Act. And the report is very shocking that a number of issues were still pending. And I'm sure among other things that have been done is by the ODM party is I think it's very impressive that the ODM party has put in place structures that we can see. I don't know about the KANU party or other parties that are here, but we can tell for sure that ODM is putting in place such structures. And what I would like to hear from Catherine and other parties that are here is in terms of the internal dispute resolution mechanisms. What is the party doing to ensure that those structures are strong, they are well facilitated to be able to discharge their mandate according to those provisions within the party constitution and election laws? That is number one. Number two, the question to do with the guidelines on political party primaries. In the absence, assuming, for instance, that the political parties bill does not get passed into law before 2022, are there alternative ways within the party that would work towards making the party primaries a little bit better, to give us some hope? Of course, we know, for instance, that the ODM party has had issues like all other parties in terms of party primaries. So, I just again inquiring that as you clean up ours, as you make in structures, are there some steps you've taken to improve on the party primaries moving forward?
Thank you, Marcus. On the issue of the internal dispute resolution mechanisms within the party, the ODM rules actually provide for the setting up. The National Elections Board has mandate to appoint county dispute resolution mechanisms to actually oversee dispute resolution of party primaries in respect of county assembly positions. And then the NEC, in consultations with NEB, appoints the National Dispute Resolution Body that hears disputes relating to the other positions. That's members of parliament, National Assembly, the Senate, gubernatorial, and so on. Now, once we came in, part of the reviews that we are coming up with is to try and develop clear regulations that will guide the county dispute resolution mechanisms. And that is underway. It's one of the things, by the way, once we came in, the first task we did as NEB was to revise the party primary, or actually to revise the party election rules. So as we are speaking, the guidelines you are speaking in your question 2, the ODM party already has a set of rules that will guide party primaries that was recently passed through the National Elections Board, which rules comparable to even the political parties bill are a lot more advanced than the political parties bill. The only thing that is missing in there is that we are kind of beholden to the IEBC and Parliament to determine, I can see in the political parties bill, they are talking about 90 days when political parties should take, 90 days before elections should be the timeline. But in as NEB, we are hoping that political parties can be given a minimum of 6 months to be the timeline within which political parties can start carrying out its party primaries. Why 6 months? For large parties like ours, I think if you have 6 months, then it is possible to stagger these elections. And if we stagger these elections, it means we are biting what we can chew. That means we can do maybe 4 counties at a time, which means we can actually do proper supervision. And with proper supervision, you have more credible elections. With more credible elections, you have fewer disputes. And with fewer disputes, all the issues that you're talking about will happen. Now, that is our thinking. That is our proposal. We don't know what Parliament is thinking. Parliament might restrict. But I'm also hoping to persuade my party that it is up to a party to decide on its candidates. So even if Parliament restricts it to 90 days, nothing should stop ODM from starting early. But I don't know whether I'll persuade my party to do that. That is my comment. It's not a comment on behalf of the party. Now, coming back to the dispute resolution mechanism, we are therefore also thinking if we have those county dispute resolution mechanisms set up, regulated, and clear panels per county, and if we stagger our party primaries, it means we also are able to have ample time for dispute resolution. But that dispute resolution this time round would be guided by clear rules and regulations, which was not the case in 2017. So the NEB is working towards having clear rules and regulations around dispute resolution. I hope that helps.
Thank you. I would have asked a question. What about briefly, what about the aspect or the concerns that the country, we know how emotive and violent they can get the political party primaries. So if you were to have them staggered within 6 months, are we able to contain that particular issue? But I also agree with you the fact that maybe a lot of that would give room to make amends where things have gone wrong. So that I think let us have it as food for thought in terms of what we've witnessed and how chaotic party primaries get, and if you were to have that for 6 months. But maybe just briefly before we take on Anjeru from PDU.
But just a comment before we take on, I was going to say, part of the failure, and let us be fair, it's just ODM that does party primaries. The rest of the chaps actually just do direct nomination. Now, if you are looking about 33,000 polling stations, elections are happening in those polling stations simultaneously. You have 1 month to go to elections. And all of those are happening, party primaries simultaneously. How do you expect to have credibility with a political party that does not have 1/10 of what IEBC gets to carry a general election? And we are carrying out something that is similar to a general election by that political party. I think we need to also think out of the box and not expect political parties to deliver what they can't deliver with the resource that they have. The IEBC gets so much resource, delivers, has the state resources, the state security apparatus at their disposal to help them deliver this, they still don't deliver credible elections. Now, for me as NEB, with a big party like ODM, overseeing over 30,000 polling stations where everybody is haggling without clear resource. That's why everybody who needs to look at this thing needs to look at it seriously and decide the best way to actually deliver credible elections is to stagger, not just for ODM, but for all political parties. Otherwise, we should be ready for chaos forever.
Well, fair enough. Jeru, PDU, do you have anything that you can add? We have about 15 minutes to go. Jeru. I can see Belinda, at some point you are almost coming live.
Duncan, should I proceed as we wait?
Yes, please, Marcus.
All right. I think I want to agree with Catherine really about that the country needs to think on the idea of really staggering its party primaries, because of on the one hand their chaotic nature, but also on the pressure that they put on the IDRM processes and PBDT in terms of dispute adjudication. That really it should sometimes, I think we need to really consider as a country. Even at the national level, you've had it said before, even as ELOG, that we want even the country to consider staggering elections, so that we have the county elections on one moment, and another time we have the national elections, as they do in South Africa, for instance. So really, I think that's something that I think we need to really underline in this discussion. But I wanted to ask Catherine, in light of that, one of the reasons I've had before why some parties are afraid to have these elections, earlier, is because they're afraid of the fallout, and therefore someone will be given so much time to move to the next party. So there is always pressure to do it the last minute, so that you lock out dissidents or guys who are unhappy with the outcome of the election to move to the next party, and therefore they'll go to the issue of the independent candidates coming up. So I don't know if first whether this is uncalled for, whether it's just a false alarm. The idea of that parties, and I'm not saying ODM, I'm just saying you are Kenyan, you've had this before, and you've had the reasons why parties tend to do it the last minute, and of course the fallout that comes with the outcome, and therefore seeking to join other, the party hopping element, and hoping that the laws were able to bring that to a close. I don't know what your thinking is, Catherine.
Thanks, Marcus. Actually, that's the reason why we keep it to the last minute. But that tells you something about the nature of the political parties that we have in Kenya. So yes, I think there is the issue of political party hopping. And unfortunately in Kenya, we shop for politicians depending on sometimes their pocket, sometimes their current popularity. So the fact that somebody is an ODM today does not rule out that they'll be in Jubilee tomorrow or in UDA tomorrow. That is a fact about the Kenyan politicians, and it somehow disadvantages. My naive mind tells me that I hope we can reach to a level where we will be able to have the resort to party loyalists, party ideology. And if we do that, by the way, nomination is not just by universal suffrage. Political parties have a right to even do direct nomination. We can decide Marcus is our, fits the bill in terms of loyalty, this, the other, therefore we are going to give him the direct ticket for this particular seat. Nothing wrong, nothing illegal with doing that. But for us to reach there, we need to reach a level where parties will be confident enough that they have held all their members together enough to be able to behave the way, for instance, ANC behaves in South Africa, the way other parties that have lived over 100 years behave, where you don't have any this party hopping that happens. But we must then admit that we are still in infancy in terms of the morphing and the evolution of the political party structure in Kenya. But the best scenario will be to reach at a level where, in fact, the party primaries, the competitive or universal suffrage style party primaries will be minimized to very few seats. But political parties will be able to have seats that are sometimes secure, and members that are reliable enough to be distributed into those seats wherever they are. But that's an ideal that I guess is maybe for the academia. But that's the kind of dream I have. I don't speak for ODM on this particular one.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know whether Catherine Mombi, you have anything, Brenda from Kanu, or Tracy Osogo, anybody that would want to tell us something before we hand over to CMD? I'm looking at the time, and I think at this particular point, I think I want to say thank you very much, the participants. Now we are at 24. I think we've really tried. It's been long, but I think extremely engaging. Eye openers here and there. Personally, I've really taken in a lot, and I think it's an advantage from where I am. So I'll be able to, I know a couple of things that I'll have to follow them up, particularly from what Mr. Kanja told us and PPDT. And of course, I know now how to handle this ODM, the orange. I can at least have 2-3 things that now they've let out of the bag cutters of the meeting. But anyway, that is on a lighter note. Maureen, I think I'm looking at the time. Maybe we can hand over to you. You tell us way forward. And I think from my end, we are done. Members, thank you very much. Maureen, over to you.
Thank you so much, Duncan, for that wonderful moderation of the discussions. At this juncture, I'd like to close the meeting officially, since I can see we do not have any more questions from the participants. And so let me just take this opportunity to thank our discussants, Ms. Catherine Muma and Marcus Ganga, for the wonderful discussions that you've helped us during this moment, and bringing out clearly what we as Kenyans have to do, and even as political parties, where we've gone wrong and what we have to improve on. And I hope it has been a learning experience for the various political parties that are presented here, so that we can at least learn from each other, and especially from our ODM, which has actually moved a notch higher to ensure that they have their structures in order, so that they can ensure that they have violence-free elections and free and fair elections within their political party. And at this moment, so let me just take this opportunity to thank everyone for taking time out of their busy schedules to attend this meeting, and especially to all the NEB members that have been presented with by the political parties that are in the meeting, that include we have KANU, we have LPK, we have WIPA, we have PDU, and we have representatives from ODM. So from Haze and CMD Kenya, and also, sorry, I've also forgotten ORPP. Thank you, Mr. Kanja, and PPDT, Ms. Brenda and Sylvester. Thank you so much for taking time out to attend our meeting. Unfortunately, we did not have on board members from NCIC that we had invited, and also from the IBC. But I hope that the questions that we've picked up from the forum, you will just get to them and see what their reply will be, and then we will share it out with you. So until next time, asante sana from CMD Kenya. Thank you so much for attending the meeting, and we hope that we can continue to engage as we move forward. Thank you so much, and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Duncan.
You're welcome.
Hey, thank you. I enjoyed it.
Asante sana, Mr. Abubakar. And continue kuvaa mask kabisa.
Okay, bye for now.
Thank you.